Well, Brazil's major growing region in Rio Grande do Sul got hit recently with record rainfall that affected more than 90% of the state, a huge area said to be about the size of the entire United Kingdom. We're getting reports that the damage from flooding destroyed food storage facilities, disrupted harvest, damaged soils with flooding and landslides, just incredible losses. Estimated over $600 million to the agriculture and livestock sectors. So what does this mean to global stocks and the impact on markets? What are the long-term effects? It seems questionable that USDA has not adjusted WASDE numbers to really reflect what we're hearing in the reports. So why? Well, when we need answers about things like soybean and corn production in South America, we call on the nation's most notable expert, Dr. Michael Cordonnier. Michael, thanks for your time as usual. I'm hearing numbers that seem devastating. 48,000 producers and the flooding of roughly 8 million acres. Are these numbers accurate, or what are you hearing?
Well, it was the worst flood in recorded history, so to speak. It was really bad. And to top it off, this is, for some guys, the second flood in 6 months. They had a problem earlier on in the year at the planting period. Now, about 75% of the soybeans had been harvested when the rainfall started at the end of April. So they were lucky to have much of it in storage. But most estimates are that we lost 2 to 3 million tons of soybeans in the field. And some people think we may have lost maybe 2 million tons of what's in storage. A lot of storage units were underwater as well.
Yeah.
So this was a really, really bad situation. CONAB came out with their June report, and they trimmed the soybean number a little bit, only about 0.3 to 147.3 million. And they commented that some producers in Rio Grande do Sul had been 18 to 20 days without electricity.
Wow.
So even if your fields are not flooded and you're trying to harvest the soybeans, you couldn't put aeration on the bin, you couldn't dry them, you had no electricity. And they said a lot of the beans left in the field were just very, very bad. Sprouting in the pods, rotted, moldy. And you're right about the soil erosion and things. People don't think about that. A lot of the fields in the river bottoms are buried in sand, a couple of feet deep, and there's lots of erosion. It's going to be a long time before these guys can recuperate, and I think some just may never recuperate. It's like I said, the second major flood in 6 months.
Yeah. Now you talk about the storage facilities, 144 storage facilities affected, the numbers that I'm getting. And so what I'm hearing you say, and I just want to get clear on this, you're saying about 2 to 3 million tons of soybeans lost in the field and about the same amount lost in some of these storage facilities.
Yes. You probably put the total loss around 5 million.
Wow.
Half in the field and maybe half in the storage facilities. I was reading a report, one crusher, he had 100,000 tons in his warehouse, and it all got flooded. And kind of ironically, the manufacturer of the storage bins in Brazil told the producers, don't touch those bins until we send out a technician to inspect it, because the soybeans swell, they might collapse, and produce toxic gases as well. So he said, just don't mess with it until we get out there and take a look at it. On top of the fact, bridges are out and roads were out. And even if you could harvest, how are you going to move it around? It was just a very difficult situation.
Yeah, real quickly. So do they think they've got an accurate accounting at this point, or do they feel the numbers are going to continue to go up?
I think we're pretty accurate now. It's been over a month, so I think we pretty much have it understood by now.
So how do you think these losses are going to impact grain markets?
Well, it's going to depend on the U.S. production. Now, Brazil was down about 7 million tons of the soybeans compared to last year. To compensate for that, Argentina is way up. So Argentina has a soybean crop about twice as big as last year. Last year, they had a historic drought. This year, they did quite good on soybeans. Now, corn's a different matter in Argentina, but for soybeans, they did quite good. So South America is not doing too bad compared to last year. And I think the prices are probably going to go sideways here for a while until we see any significant weather problem in the United States.
Yeah.
Now, I think the U.S. soybean acreage is probably going to go up a little bit, because I think the corn acres are going to go down. I lowered the corn 500,000 acres from 90 million down to 89.5. I think it might go down another 500, maybe a little bit more. There's some prevent plant in the far northwestern corn belt, western Minnesota, the Dakotas. They just got rain there last night again, which they did not need. So I think the corn area goes down a little bit. And, of course, some goes to prevent plant and some goes to soybeans. So I think the soybean area goes up. And I think that's kind of putting a lid a little bit on pricing. But having said that, temperatures are going to warm up starting this weekend into the 90s. We'll see how long it lasts. Now, 1 week of warm temperatures, probably beneficial, quite frankly. Get the corn growing better and the soybeans growing better. But more than a week, it's a different story. So depends on how long this warm snap hangs around.
Yeah.
And if you have a weather problem, prices are going to respond. If not, they won't.
And to the point about that, last question today, and I know that you follow the El Nino, La Nina weather pattern. We've been tracking this as we came out of spring, get into June here. We're looking at some point here before about the 4th of July, last I heard, that we're going to be switching to La Nina. What's your sense of the impact that'll have on the U.S. crop?
Yes, we are in neutral position now. We are going to switch over. And usually, now, that's the caveat, a La Nina gives you hotter and drier conditions in the western Corn Belt and not so much in the eastern Corn Belt. So we'll see if that happens or not. I'm quite worried about the temperature. I've been saying this for many, many years. There's like a mirror image in the northern and southern hemisphere. What you get in one hemisphere, you get in the other hemisphere. Now, the last growing season in Brazil, it was record high temperatures, record dry conditions, and that was in October, November, December. So I'm afraid that if we have that mirror image now, we may have these hot, dry conditions for the middle of our growing season. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but it is a major concern. We do have a cushion. The crops are pretty good rated right now. We got some good soil moisture, but it wouldn't take long of 90-degree temperatures, to get rid of that soil moisture cushion. So that's what we have to watch going forward.
Yeah, that's one of the things as I talk to agronomists that they're worried about as well. Dr. Michael Cordonnier, thanks so much for your time. It's always instructive to hear what you've got to say.
Always my pleasure.
Podcasts by Federated Media.